I am Carol Angela Davis, and welcome to Impact News. Good day, and thank you for joining us for another edition of this news broadcast. Folks, the chickens are coming home to roost, folks. Yes, they are, and we can thank Puerto Rico for it, folks. 16 municipalities in Puerto Rico, each of them devastated by Hurricane Maria in 2017. They are now using the racketeering laws, folks, to go after the oil and the coal companies for the devastation they've caused. These communities accuse the oil and coal companies of deceiving the public over climate change. And you know those racketeering laws because they're usually used to target mob bosses. But hey, if the shoe fits, wear that sucker, okay? The objective in this first ever climate change RICO case is to hold the fossil fuel industry accountable, folks. According to the lawsuit, international oil and coal companies, their trade associations, and their network of paid think tank scientists and other operatives, well, these communities in Puerto Rico say they all conspire to deceive the public about the direct link between their greenhouse gas emitting products and climate change, folks, all in order to maximize profits, all right? Doesn't that sound like the cigarette industry? Remember, we had to hold them accountable, and we did, and it was better for everybody, and now we got to hold oil and coal accountable, folks. These Puerto Rico communities say it goes all the way back to 1989, and they say it involves companies including ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, and Rio Tinto. As a result, they say the oil and coal companies are collectively responsible for at least 40% of greenhouse gases, the same green, they get killing everybody. Folks, and it is very serious for Puerto Rico because it is one of the world's most affected places by climate change. I don't know if you do that, but Puerto Rico is in a lot of trouble because it gets hit on all fronts. Folks, it's got hurricanes, it's got storm surge, it's got heat, and it's got coral bleaching. So let's stand behind and stand with Puerto Rico and bring these oil and coal companies to their feet, bring their feet to the fire because it's killing all of us. So we all have to band together for help. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Stay with me for the news. Be right back. Well, thanks for staying with me. These are your stories from all around the neighborhood and all around the world. We're going to begin with this, folks. His boss, oh yes, his boss joked about shooting black people. Yeah, and when this worker complained, guess what, folks? He was fired. You better believe it, folks. It happened at the Midland, Texas facility there of Oklahoma-based American Piping Inspection. Now, that's why this company recently settled with the federal government for $250,000. That's what they had to pay in compensation for their dirty deeds. According to the lawsuit, the unnamed African-American male, he was a radiographer, he alleges that his supervisor used the N-word to refer to him and made racist and threatening jokes. One such joke was this: what is the best way to see a black man? And the answer was at the end of a scope. That's right, folks. And then he made a gesture at the unnamed black man as if he was aiming a weapon at him. Yeah, that's what's going on in these companies. Then after the employee stood up, the company started punishing him, falsely citing him for improperly storing and logging equipment. He was eventually fired in September 2018. The lawsuit says at the same time, at least 10 white radiographers committed the exact same infractions that the employee was accused of, and none of them were fired. That's where we are, folks. All right, let's move on. The family of a 17-year-old African-American youth from Virginia, his dismembered body was found 10 days after his mother reported him missing last month. They are pleading for answers, folks. All right, after Sion Carroll's remains were found in a shallow grave in Lunenburg County, Virginia, the family says there is still no suspect. That's right, folks. No arrest, and the law, they say, has not given them a single update. No respect. All right, Sion's body was apparently found in a shallow grave with 2 gunshot wounds, one to his head and one in his back. That's right, folks. All right, it hit his spine. Sion was then dismembered. Lye was poured on him, as was cement, and then he was buried. Anyone with any information about the case is urged to call the Virginia State Police at 434-352-7128, 434-352-7128, or email them at questions@vsp.virginia.gov. Now, if I were you, I would call the FBI, frankly. I don't know if I'd call the Virginia State Police because they can't figure out how to get an update, so they aren't even looking at the case. All right, let's move on. The U.S. Postal Service has a new 2023 stamp. That's right, folks, honoring the life and legacy of late civil rights leader John Lewis, folks. That's right. He died in 2020, as you know, after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. The late politician and civil rights activist was known as the conscience of Congress because of his stand for racial justice, human rights, and voting rights. And as you know, the U.S. House of Representatives did pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act in 2021. All right, folks, looking at your health, diabetes is surging. Yes. The CDC says about 526,000 young Americans could have both type 1 and type 2 diabetes by 2060. Folks, that's more than double what it was in 2017. It's nearly a 700% increase of type 2 diabetes diagnosis in Americans under the age of 20. Bad food, all right? Type 1 diabetes could also increase 65% among young Americans in the next 40 years. And who do you think? Who do you think is going to be most affected? Of course, it's minority populations. You should also expect to see an increase in childhood obesity, which you can control. Watch what you feed your kids. The CDC cited a new study published in the journal Diabetes Care. That's where they're getting these numbers from. Now, right now, diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the United States. It is extremely costly for those living with it, and it is not curable. Take heed. Make sure you watch what you're eating. All right, then good news about the climate and renewable energy, folks. A new battery that is cheaper than lithium ion. It is also has 4 times the capacity, folks. It could be the help to solve the renewable energy storage problem. Now, scientists say we can speed up the transition to a clean electric grid by storing excess energy in batteries, but lithium ion batteries are very expensive. Okay, enter what they call sodium sulfur batteries. Okay, they are a promising alternative to the energy storage problem. These batteries apparently rely on chemical reactions to store and deploy electrical energy, and they use low-cost materials, folks. That material can easily be extracted from salt water. And a whopping 30% of global CO2 emissions, you should know, are produced by coal-fired power plants, and decarbonizing the electric grid is a vital part of combating climate change. All right, moving on, good news about the climate and companies that are making a difference, folks. As part of its goal to reach 100% net zero emissions by 2030, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport has been recycling used cooking oil from its restaurants and recycling that into jet fuel. And today there are 200 restaurants in 5 of the airport's terminals that are participating in the program. They send their used fryer oil from their fries, yes, literally, to recycling plants. It gets filtered there. It gets turned into sustainable aviation fuel, which is also called SAF. You should know that almost 32,000 gallons of oil are collected each month, and then they're used turned into fuel. The SAF fuel does reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 80%, so it's very important. And that is, of course, compared to fossil jet fuel. Other airports are also taking part of the program, and that includes Los Angeles International. $52 billion plan to save New York's low-lying areas from sea level rise and storm surges. We're talking Howard Beach, Hamilton Beach, and Broad Channel, and other communities in that area. They're sitting on the Jamaica Bay, about an hour from Manhattan. Some areas, they do face up to a foot of tidal flooding almost every month. Can you believe that? It's terrible. Okay, Hamilton Beach is now part of and in fact is at the center of this $52 billion plan that's going to construct storm surge gates and seawalls trying to protect that Jamaica Bay. One resident of the community of 27,000, he says he has to move his car 3 to 4 times a month just to avoid the floods, and the main entry road to their community is constantly flooded and traps them in. Now, sea levels are projected to rise an alarming 6 feet. Yes, could be more. Along the U.S. coastline by the end of the century. We're talking all around the coastline, not just out there in Jamaica Bay. All right, let's look at the diaspora from Guyana. That is the 5th fastest growing economy in the world, folks. It has a projected growth of 58.7%. That comes to us from the International Monetary Fund. Guyana is ranked number 1 in the world. Fiji is second with a projected economic growth of 12.5%. And a lot of that growth in Guyana is due to agriculture and construction. All right. Then we go to Barbados. They're not playing around about those guns over there in Barbados, folks. You know, Mia Motley does not play. That's right. Now the island nation has more severe fines and penalties for gun-related crimes. Guns being increasingly used in Barbados when crimes are committed. Now, a first offense, you have better not commit a crime with a gun. A first offense can get a convicted person 10 to 20 years in prison. And if there is a second offense, folks, you're going down for 20 years to life. They're not playing. America, take note. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Those are your stories. Stay with me. I'll be back with Ask Dr. K, the international report, missing, and the slave word, and of course, the all-important financial news. Stay with me. All righty, folks. I'm here with your slay word of the week. The word this week, as we level up our vocab, is precocious. 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 That's an adjective. That means it modifies or describes that noun. Its origin from the Latin. Now, the definition is having or showing mature qualities at an unusually early age. It can also mean exceptionally early in development or occurrence. Let's use it in a couple of sentences. First of all, a precocious musician. He's been performing concerts since the age of 7. Second sentence, folks, she was a precocious child who could read before she started school. That's right, you go, girl. Precocious, it means having or showing mature qualities at an unusually early age. It can also mean exceptionally early in development or occurrence. Precocious. Folks, that's your slay word of the week. Use it all week and level up your vocab. Stay with me.
Anyone who thinks that slavery ended in the 1860s with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation are grievously wrong.
If we caught a bird, we ate through the feathers and ate the bird. We didn't have nothing to cook on. We didn't have no stove. You know who you are and who we are.
We're still on the big plantation.
She was bonded to them until they died. She was their slave.
They said, well, we're going to be killed tonight.
Could that same white dude keep terrorists there? Or Russian spies? Or the KGB? And the government wouldn't know it? No.
They thought I was beat so bad that I couldn't do nothing, but I did.
Where are you? We are looking for you, and with the community's help, we will find our missing African American girls. Here's our feature of the week. 13-year-old Mercedes Crumpton was last seen on a Friday on the west side of Chicago, Illinois. She was spotted in the 800 block of South Keeler Avenue. Mercedes regularly wears a black dress and black furry sandals. She has a scar on her nose and wears long braids. Mercedes is 5'5". She weighs 100 pounds and has brown eyes and black hair. Please call Chicago Police with any information about Mercedes Crumpton. Where are you? Please know we're out there looking for you, and with the community's help, and please help us, we will find you. We are back at you with the international report, and today our story comes from Brazil. Welcome, Eni.
Thank you, Carol. I thought today that I had to bring the story of Pelé, the greatest footballer of all time. And what makes him so special? He is an athlete of great moral compass. First of all, he was a black man, a black Brazilian in a country that's notoriously racist and classist. He succumbed that by his sheer brilliance and love of the game. But what was more important about him was the humanitarian work he did. For example, in Nigeria, in the civil war that happened in 1965, Biafra, as everybody knows it, he managed to get both sides to stop fighting just to watch him play. They stopped fighting for 2 days just to watch him play. And he did many other humanitarian things. He did cultural things. He was an ambassador for UNESCO. He was a man of great principle and great joy. And the world is a sorrier place without him. And I just thought I wanted to talk a little bit about his funeral, which was yesterday. 230,000 people filed past his coffin to say goodbye, including the president of the country, President Lula. And it was a joyful ceremony. He was, after all, 82, but it's still very, very sad.
Very interesting, because, we noticed that, the Black people all over the world have always led with our conscience, of course, and led with humanity. And here we are. I remember as a young person, and my mother was quite the athlete. And boy, she just loved Pele. You call it football, we called it soccer, but oh, he was something.
Yes, yes. He was a great ambassador. He put Brazil on the map. And can you imagine this young Black man put Brazil on the map? I mean, it was really, really a great story. I remember my father talking about Pele. I remember as a child watching him play, and it was a sad moment, but truly a joyful, a great moment. He's gone to rest.
Well, thank you so much, Eni. That is your international report. I hope you know more about Pele now, if you didn't. And this is Carol Angela Davis with Dr. Inyang Ebong Harshap, and we'll see you next week with another interesting story from around the world. Thank you, Eni.
Thank you, Carol.
Well, thank you for staying with me for your financial news. It is always important to know what's going on with the money, okay, particularly in America. All right, here we go. Black influencers, they say brands are discriminating against them. That's right. And the case in point we're going to talk about today is Anthony Bumba, a Black lifestyle creator with over 900,000 TikTok followers. And she says in 2021, she and her former roommate, who's also an influencer, decided they wanted to build relationships with PR companies. All right. So after reaching out to the same company, Bumba didn't receive any gifts, while her friend, who's white and had fewer followers, did. There it is. Bumba says the company's reasoning is that it was at capacity for gifting, folks. Now, you should know that according to a 2021 study, the wage gap between Black and white influencers is 35%. Now, that's a new industry. They already started that silliness. All right, let's go to secondhand clothing. Secondhand clothing store sales, are booming, people. We all know that because we're all buying it and reshaping the fashion industry. All right, the U.S. secondhand clothing market, folks, it is projected to more than triple in value in the next 10 years, from 28 billion US in 2019 to 80 billion US dollars in 2029, folks. The secondhand clothing market is composed of both thrift stores and resale platforms. In 2019, secondhand clothing expanded 21 times faster than did conventional apparel retail. Now compare that to fast fashion, which is fast fashion. That's like your Zara's and your 21, whatever, Forever 21. Sorry about those stores. All right, fast fashion is expected to continue to grow 20% in the next 10 years, but secondhand fashion is expected to grow 185%. The perception about secondhand clothing has simply changed, and now many consumers consider secondhand clothing to be of identical and in some cases even superior quality to unworn clothing. All right, moving on to the auto industry, Ford says its F-Series pickup is still the market leader after 10 years and despite ongoing problems with parts and supply chains. All right, can you believe that in 2022, check this out, Ford sold at least one F-Series truck every 49 seconds. Yes, they did. That F-150 has been America's best-selling truck for 46 consecutive years and best-selling vehicle for 41 years. Folks, that's your financial news. Thanks for staying with me. Don't go away. I still got to ask Dr. K. Stay with me. We got to take care of your health. Stay with me.
I'm just sick and tired of us not spending time together lately.
I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry I ain't been spending time with you. I've just been working on this big deal. It's gonna bring a lot more money to the household for it.
What you doing here, boss? Yeah, just checking to see if you still got it.
You take this work. Your partner. I don't want it back.
I've seen the movies, man. I know how this goes.
You see the movie, huh? You see Goodfellas, New Jack City.
Everything I do is for you. Like, I just need a little bit more time, man. Fine bullshit. Like I said, he's gonna call any second.
Okay, let me ask you this. Why don't you take a look at this video? Guess what? It's starring you.
We are back closing out the show with your health tip of the week with Dr. K. Davis. Welcome, Dr. K.
Thank you. Welcome, and thanks for having me. Today, I want to talk about light. And if we talk about light, mostly we think about UV light. But you know, the body absorbs two different kinds of light. One is ultraviolet, absorbed through the skin, and the other one is blue light. And blue light is absorbed through our eyes and our skin, and it is critical to our health. So when we go outside, this is what we're seeing. We see blue light. There's a lot of lights in the spectrum that are visible during sunset and sunrise, but when we say the word light, we generally mean blue light. And blue light comes at us during the day, at sunrise, diminishes at sunset, and as usual in nature, blue light gives us everything we need in the dose that we need it at the time that we need it. The problem that we're having nowadays, though, is that we have blue light emitted by electronic devices, LED bulbs. So that's the television, airports, hospitals, ICUs, etc. And we're getting blue light 24 hours a day. But when blue light falls at night, it stimulates the production of melatonin and leptin, two very important hormones. And when it's visible during the day, it stimulates the production of cortisol. So during the day, it keeps us happy, it keeps us awake, and at night, it tells us when it dies, go to sleep now and rest and let the body metabolize chemicals. So what happens when we're overexposed to blue light? We don't get melatonin production, we don't get leptin production, so our sleep cycle is off. And leptin is a hormone that says, I'm satisfied. So without leptin, we don't have a sense of satisfaction, food satisfaction being number one. So we're snacking, we're eating at odd hours. And here we go wondering why we can't lose this weight or why we're diabetic. Part of it is this cycle of blue light, and this is commonly known as circadian rhythms. And they are incredibly important to our health. So during the day, go outside, get natural blue light. At night, shut everything down, sleep in pitch black. That's no television, no light coming from your phone or your thermostat or whatever. And it's much better for your health during the day.
Wow, that's so interesting. I have really one quick question because we're 5 seconds left. And that is, what about the light that's outside from the street lights and everything that people might see streaming in from their windows? Do they need those blackout curtains?
Yes, they do. Because nowadays, if you notice, they're even telling you, oh, we're converting all the street lights to LED. They're converting all the street lights to blue light. That's what LED is.
So you have to black it out.
In the ICU, and there's constant blue light on you. Your circadian rhythms are screwed. Exactly.
Wow, it's so interesting. Thank you, Dr. K. We thank you so much. We are back at you. You know, we don't quit when it comes to your health. I'm Carol Angela Davis.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And we'll see you next week for the next edition of Impact News. We tell you exactly what you need to know, stuff you don't hear everywhere else, but you will hear it here. Thank you again for all of us at Impact News. We thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.